Is receiving not your strong suit? And more often than not, you're the one giving in your relationships? Do you abandon true abundance and prosperity for lack and burnout? Understanding the upcoming concepts and dynamics related to giving and receiving in this video will dramatically change your ability to receive and provide you with the tools and techniques you need to easily receive the life you have always wanted. So, for starters, what receiving actually is. Let's define it so that we can all be on the same page. The term receiving is defined as being given, presented with, or paid something. Now, this may seem simple, but immediately this definition reveals what the true nature of receiving is. It is a one-sided relationship where energy is flowing strictly in one direction. Think of it like a river where energy is only moving from one place to another, from upstream to downstream. The downstream part receives the water that the upstream part is giving. Another great metaphor is that of an antenna. An antenna is a big receiving disc that is designed for the sole purpose of capturing energy in the form of information and basically receiving the specific wave function that antenna is attuned to. Now, to relate this to human functioning, we are typically a little bit more multidimensional, meaning we do have the capacity to give and receive at the same time, not just one or the other. But generally speaking, physiologically and psychologically, human frameworks work in the same way. So, for example, let's say that you're lying on the couch with your partner and you're connecting physically. There's physical contact between the two of you, and both of you are receiving the company of the other person and you're giving your company to the other person. It's a mutual exchange. But simultaneously, if you were to specify one metric of exchange and you were just to look at the heat exchange that's happening between you, inevitably one person will be warmer than the other, and so one person will end up giving heat to the colder person. Another way to relate this concept to humanity is to think of it in terms of a conversation. In the grand scheme of almost every conversations, in most cases, the exchange of words will be going back and forth periodically, and both participants will get a chance to speak. And on some level, that's a mutual exchange. But on a deeper level, most likely one person will be speaking more than the other person. If you were to systematically quantify how many exact words were spoken, you would see that almost every exchange is not equally mutual. One person has likely spoken more than the other. So one person has inevitably given more than the other, and that means they've also received less. The reason I'm sharing this example with you is because it paints a very clear picture of the dynamics at play within relationships and energetic exchange. It can also clearly be seen that in everything we do, we are either in an energy draining situation or we are in an energy gaining situation where we have more energy than what we previously had before the action. So if you are someone who clicked on the title of this video and have made it this far, you probably have realized that in some of the things you interact with, you fall into the giving side of the spectrum and struggle to be the one receiving. Don't worry, you aren't alone, I've been there too. As someone who has personally found themselves drained and depleted because of overgiving, after a certain amount of time, you realize the pattern is simply unsustainable. Because if you look at the truth of who you are and see that you are a finite, limited physical being with limited physical resources to give, if you give all the time, eventually your cup will end up empty. And from this empty place, not only do you become unable to give so that you can't receive the satisfaction of giving anymore, but also you may need to be given support too from others, forcing them to drain themselves because you let yourself get so low. This is why this pattern can be detrimental, and it can become a serious problem if it goes on for long enough unregulated. The solution to the problem, however, is very simple. Spend time in a dedicated receiving mode where you designate allotted time receiving and doing things simply for the sake of filling your own energy and happiness back up. This is not selfish. The earth is made of cycles of giving and receiving. For each individual, the activities that will leave you filled up will be different, and so it is up to each individual to determine the amount of receiving that is necessary for them to maintain the standard of living and success that they like. But what's important is that each and every one of us, no matter your situation, does have to receive in order to maintain a healthy and balanced emotional, mental landscape. A practical way to achieve this is to choose one or two activities that fill you up and perform them every week, no matter what you have going on. This forces you to begin to prioritize yourself first and ensure that your needs are met and regularly achieved. Another way to develop your ability to receive is to spend time in a state of mind that is separate from the regular state of mind that you are most accustomed to. For example, those who work a traditional work week, especially in a position that is highly mental, chances are your base state of consciousness is one that is highly analytically focused and has clear direction, and it's really necessary for you to be in this state of mind to get your daily tasks done. However, this might condition your mind so that even when you aren't working, you are still in a hyperactive mental state where it's hard to relax and not overthink or analyze. So the way to recondition your mind into a receiving state of calmness and peace rather than giving focus and attention is to do tasks that change your brainwave state. One easy example is meditation, where you sit in silence and you limit the external stimuli that your sense organs have to process, which will slow down and limit your brain activity. But this can be difficult for people who haven't spent time training their minds. So if you have an active mind, then what I would suggest instead is doing a creative endeavor. By doing something creative, whether it be cooking, making music, painting, dancing, singing, we shift our state from a doing state into a being state, from a known into a unknown. And with this change, we go from giving to the external world to receiving creative inspiration from our internal world. Now, given that the answer to this dilemma is so simple and receiving is actually really enjoyable, how is it that so many struggle to receive? Well, to answer that, we have to get into the why, answering the question, how does one develop the pattern of overgiving in the first place? Overgiving often stems from one source, but it will manifest in different ways for different people. The main cause, however, is fear. Fear of lack, fear of unacceptance, fear of rejection, and fear of disapproval. For many of us who were raised in an emotionally unsafe or unsupportive environment where our safety and security was jeopardized, this willingness to self-sacrifice our needs to create safety in our environment for the people around us was something that we collectively inherited, and it did serve a benefit. Let's say, for example, a child got little to no attention from their parent. That child might act out or do bad things to force their parents' attention, or they may do good things to earn the approval of their parents. Another situation is a person who doesn't have a lot of friends and they are judged for who they are. So rather than other people working on their judgments and criticisms, the just person will shape themselves into a version that is not true to their unique self, but rather a model of what they think the social group will like and accept. Carl Jung has a great quote that says, "The empath is one who makes a silent agreement with another person's shadows." So rather than the people around us changing their behavior that is immature or unsupportive, the sensitive, morally righteous person will be the one to change their behavior, and they become a molded fit to the world around them. Ultimately, all of this boils down to the fear of not having our needs fully met by the external world. And so we search and we extend ourselves further and further to try and find gratification and nourishment that we so deeply yearn for. The problem with this strategy, though, is that even though it's heroic, it's an endless cycle. You will not get to the place that you are so desperate to go, because those around you with a more selfish nature, not saying selfish is good or bad, it just is, they have an endless ability to gain. Abundance is infinite, so those who take can take and take and take. And those who give can give and give and give. So as long as you seek validation externally, we will never be able to find it internally, because all that we have created will never be enough to fill the void that we've created from within. The only concrete solution that many givers find once they have fully exhausted their ability to give is that they realize if you want to be whole and happy, you have to reliably become the source of your own fulfillment. You need to become self-prioritized. Once you begin to prioritize yourself, a grand shift takes place. You transition from worthless to worthy. Once you believe yourself to be worthy of your own love, worthy of support, and worthy of your dreams, then and only then will the actions needed to make your dream a reality take place. Your energy will no longer be given away to water other people's plants, but instead you will nourish your own flower to blossom to its greatest potential. To recap, giving and receiving are one-sided in nature, and it is up to you to balance the scales. Overgiving leads to depletion, and overgiving comes from fear. In order to become the ultimate receiver of our dream life, we need to shift our state and give to ourselves first, taking care of our own needs from within. Once you begin to give to yourself, you will feel more and more worthy of love as time goes on, and your overflow will naturally fill up the people around you, which creates the win-win scenario you were looking for all along. If you follow these steps and contemplate these things, applying them, you will live out your dream life and you will be able to build it and enjoy it with your own hands. My name is John. I'm an emotional wellness and confidence coach who specializes in high ticket coaching for men and women to break through their limiting beliefs holding them back so that you can actively build the life of your dreams with ease. If you're interested, you can check out the links below to work together. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out my other videos and subscribe if you're interested in more wellness content like this.